Hey, I just wanted to say to the BizSense guys, I do really love you guys. And it's okay if you don't ever rebrand.
You're doing
great work.
We love your brand. It's beautiful brand, but we also know how good Campfire is. So, all right.
Okay.
Season 2, episode 9. It's Christie, Thompson, partner and lead strategist.
It's a made-up title.
We're totally gonna dig into that. Check. Oh, that's a really loud music. There we go. That's better. I can hear myself again. I'm Kenny with Carter. We're sitting really close to each other this day.
It's closer than it looks, in case you were curious.
We are from PermaZip. Go to the website, get an instant quote online, get a price in seconds. We also have some pretty cool HVAC calc tools coming out soon, so keep an eye out for that. Today we're going to talk about design from the marketer's perspective, a little bit in the industry. We riffed a little bit, a pre-podcast when we first talked about that. And so, just a little quick intro. Like, what do you do? You mentioned you started 2 years later when the firm it was established. It's been 13 years now, something like that.
14. Sorry.
Oh, wow.
12. Excuse me.
Somewhere 14, 12, 13. It's all the same. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that story.
Sure. Yeah. Lauren and Christina and I are business partners in the company, and we like to joke that we don't remember how we met each other. So I was doing marketing for an architecture firm. That's what I started doing out of school, and met them at some point through the creative community. They had started Campfire doing branding and interiors. They had been working together for about 2 years. And then I started helping out, writing proposals and just doing like kind of the basic marketing stuff.
Yeah.
And then just kept picking up more jobs. And eventually I was like, hey, what if I just work here full time?
Oh, yeah.
And sort of created a role for myself.
So you were in the architecture industry before. What did you go to school for? Is it marketing or architecture?
Actually, neither. Communications.
Yeah.
I just studied public relations. Actually, it was like my major, I guess.
Yeah. Where'd you go?
Virginia Tech.
Oh.
Shout out to Virginia Tech.
Damn it, I'm the only VCU guy ever around here.
Yeah,
that
you guys are undefeated
bizarre.
in football.
I feel like everybody is a VCU grad here.
Yeah,
I
really?
feel like Hokies are usually rare. I guess not in architecture.
Yeah.
There's so many like Hokie architecture grads, but
I don't even know if we don't think we have architecture at VCU. I think there's interior design.
Exactly. Yeah.
And engineering and a really smelly computer lab. But
Cheeto fingers.
Yeah, that's not a computer lab you want to go to. Boy, I always liked to go to the business school computer lab because it was people more regularly washing themselves. Engineers have a tendency to just sit there for days and days and days. At
Virginia
and not
Tech,
stop.
we had what they call the Math Emporium, which was like just this weird room of like 1,000 computers where I think people took math classes. I actually didn't take any math in college, which is weird, but I tested out of it from high school. And yeah, you would just go there to like write papers. That's what I did anyways.
Yeah.
It was a bizarre experience.
A lot of math. I actually, in the opposite, I have a music degree. And then when I wanted to go into engineering, I had no math. So I had to like pick up a math book and learn how to do math. I was like, what is math? I didn't have algebra.
Fascinating transition.
Yeah. They're very similar though. Math and music.
That's fair.
You know, it's all sheet music is basically subdivided into perfect little quantized.
How did you get, like, what made you be like, okay, music, nope, that's not for me. I'll go do this other thing.
Yeah, basically when I was trying to make a business out of it and all anybody ever wanted to do is get high and get drunk and there's no money ever anywhere. So I was like,
You're like, there's no nerds here.
Yeah, I need nerds.
I need my smelly Cheeto nerds.
I record so many bands, band after band, and every time they go there, it's their first experience. So they bring all types of debauchery along with them, and that's what they want to do. And I'm just like, man, I can't. I mean, I like hanging out with you guys.
Yep.
But I just did this last week, and I will do this for the next 77 weeks. And but yeah. So, but also, I always tell people I was as broke as my clients. So we were all broke. There's no money, and we're all musicians. And so I got an electrical engineering degree, actually, incidentally, so that I could make equipment for my studio. And then when I got a job offer with a real salary, to draw like triangles on floor plans. It's like, what? This is way better. Wow, I can't believe how much you're going to pay me. You know, I recorded an album literally one time for food and to drive me to the studio. I was like, I'll do your album for 2 weeks as long as you drive me to the studio and buy me food every day.
I mean, you went from like, there's something to be said for the barter system.
Yeah, it worked. We had a lot of fun. And there are plenty of other things they provided during those 2 weeks as well. But
Care to share with the class?
Yeah.
This is the after hours podcast.
Yeah. Don't
We
wait till
definitely
the
need
sun
beers
goes-
for those ones.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already feeling pretty cool in here. So tell us about your involvement with this. Is a lot of the marketing. We talk about social media, but
Yeah.
proposal writing. How do you even start thinking about the level of effort, for example, that goes into this kind of project?
Yeah. So Campfire, our specialty is combining branding and interior design. So one of our big clients we work with is food and beverage. We've been doing that work since the beginning of the firm, figuring out the amount of effort that goes into it. Like, we've worked really hard to hone in on like, what is our core package, basically? What is the minimum amount of work we need to do to make something amazing? How much time does each phase need? And then to like make that repeatable, basically. So we just recently kind of have honed in on the fact that food and beverage being such a core sort of client that we work with, that we have kind of created this hospitality package, which is basically when working with a restaurant, here's kind of like what that includes, here's what they need, here's like kind of what the market will take in terms of design fees and things like that. And so we're extremely process driven. Like, there's basically no way to run a design business without that.
Yeah, that's interesting because, man, I don't understand anything about how to build a business that looks cool. Like, I just don't get it. But you saying that to me, we talked, this episode's about design. So there's so much to unpack with that, but like designing, the process of designing things that look cool. What does that process workflow? What does that even look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. For us, because we're like sort of a branding forward design firm, we always want to start with an understanding of brand. For us, that is everything from like your values and sort of big picture of who you are as a company to like your specific audiences. What is your personality as a company? We kind of really go deep in like the origins and foundations of brand. And then we start to think about, okay, well, if that's what you want to evoke as a company, how do we turn that into a visual, right? So we'll start out with big picture ideas and concepts, like taking sort of those core personality traits and thinking about, because if you think about a space that makes you feel warm and welcome and intimate and cozy, you can kind of like, you have a visual of sort of what that feels like in your mind.
Some people do.
But like at the end of the day, when you leave a space, like you know you had a feeling that space made you feel, even if you couldn't necessarily articulate it, right? So that's kind of what we help our clients do, is kind of take that really sort of loose vision of a feeling and turn that into a physical experience. And when working with food and beverage clients, they are much more tuned into that and have a strong vision. Like this specific project, working with Liz Kincaid, the owner, she had a really clear idea of what she wanted to create. And we were there to sort of like just help her take it to the next level.
Yeah, this is just beautiful in here. I love the neon. I love the color, how bold and subdued, I guess it is. I'm an engineer. I don't know how to describe how shit looks, but
keep going with your adjectives.
Yeah, it looks. It's got a good dark feel. We actually struggle with lighting because of the darkness, but that's got to be part of why it's so cozy. Just that you don't have so much light and reflecting everywhere.
Yeah,
a lot of black here, a lot of darker colors, and the wallpaper is crazy. I don't even know. I'm curious. You may not have been. Are you? Well, let me back up. Are you involved with the design process?
Yeah, good question.
Mostly with thinking about how the design process works from a
little bit of both. So my role typically, our company is 7 people and we have like 3 owners. So we wear a lot of hats. So like there's a little bit of everything that everybody does, right? But our interiors team is really specialized, right, in interiors, and then we have a graphics team that's really specialized in graphics and branding and web design. My role is more in helping, like onboarding clients, getting them in the door, writing proposals, that kind of thing, but then also pulling them all the way through kind of that discovery phase, like talking them, facilitating conversations about their dreams, about their goals, about their vision, and really kind of like uncovering all of that, like listening and then distilling that into sort of like basically what you call a creative brief, but like, this is what we heard, this is what we want the project to do. And then I kind of like sometimes I'll stay on with a project if it's more like graphics and web focused. But for the interiors team, usually it's like kind of pass off that creative brief and they sort of take that and run that with it.
You should podcast with your clients in the discovery phase. There's a really good opportunity to dive into stuff
we
like that.
we used to call it brand therapy, basically.
Yeah. So you just riff with them.
You've been like working and thinking about this vision and this company for usually years. People have been like thinking about it and planning for it, and it's like a dream of theirs to sort of work on this. And so it's like, okay, now time to download all of that so we can make sure that we really understand every detail.
So when you talk about branding, I haven't struggled myself, even though I run businesses and I try to brand them with what that is. So do people come to you with a logo and everything? Are you involved with helping them refine that logo? Is that part of the branding process? And also thinking about the taglines or how you describe the copy that goes on the website and all that? Is that part of the package as well?
Yeah, totally. Branding means something a little bit differently to everyone. For us, like our package typically includes sort of that strategy session and kind of doing the foundations of brand strategy. And then basically from scratch, creating a visual identity, which would be your logo, graphic elements, colors, typefaces, patterns, all the standards of basically how you deploy your brand visually.
Do you get involved with like social media strategies as well, or is that separate?
Once we get into like marketing execution, like we can help out from a visual standpoint. So if there's like, templates folks need or like graphics that they need to support the marketing strategy or execution, we can do with that. We can help out with that. But as far as actual marketing strategy and execution, that's just sort of like one piece of the puzzle of branding that we're just like, we'll refer you to an expert in that, basically.
Yeah, that's wild. It's very similar to what we face is trying to describe to people what it is we do or don't do, because it's crazy to try to write a scope and say, well, here's what our engineering services are and aren't.
Yeah.
And then the scope creep. And so in my mind, I barely know where marketing ends and branding begins. And
it's a good reminder that other people don't quite understand that because you work on something so much and you feel like you understand.
Yeah.
And then folks ask you certain questions and you're like, no, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
Actually.
Like social
and then
media
you're like, should I know that?
Yeah. I mean, especially when you first, or at least for me, when I first started, I was always afraid to like, no, I don't let people know I don't know something. Now I'm a lot more comfortable.
Yes.
Like, I have
with
no
your
clue.
own knowledge and being able to be like, hey, actually, that's a great question. I would love to refer you to an expert, or like, I'll get back to you on that. That's not something we typically deal with.
So you're in charge also of the branding and marketing of the company itself as much as you are in it seems like those skills also help you in the consulting discovery phase with clients when you do have them. So we were talking before the podcast started about you trying to replicate yourself. What kind of challenges are there in trying to replicate somebody in that position of the marketing expertise?
Yeah. So like we were talking about social media and just like the different basically mediums that our brand is showing up in. And at some point as an owner, like I'm sure you feel this too, is you want to pull out of the day-to-day and you want to be like really thoughtful with where your time is going. Because at some point your time is really valuable to the company. Yeah. And we want to be putting it in like a really strategic, really careful way of saying, okay, how can we make sure that time is going towards basically effort that's going to bring us more work that we want to be doing, right? And Instagram is a piece of that, but it's that's more about like building, honestly, like our fan base locally than it is about bringing in clients. And I say this, and we literally got like a client inquiry the other day. But we've been on Instagram for like 15 years. We've got like 5 client inquiries from this. So it's just like the ROI really is not there for us personally. So I'm trying to figure out how to put my effort into some of these like more strategic places within kind of like our marketing strategy.
I mean, it's basically a portfolio, right? I mean,
for sure.
It's just like here, all of our curated work of these beautiful images of what we've done. We talked about it before we started. I have no clue how to use our Instagram. I don't know what to do with it.
It's been podcast stuff more recently. Right?
Yeah, it's basically that. We might as well just change it to the Blueprint Tour instead of PermitZip. And PermitZip, like the engineering firm, what do you do with it? I used to try to make cool pictures of stuff in India when I was there, like old engineering parts and stuff. Like, but
Instagram has changed so much too. Like when I was first doing it with Campfire, there was an ability to put effort into it and get effort out and like to get actual like followers and to grow but at this point we've like the past 2-3 years, it's like you're at a ceiling unless you are putting insane amounts of effort into it. And then at the end of the day, Like, are we actually going to get work from that? Because we work with commercial clients and not residential clients.
Yeah.
It's just not a great place to truly be developing the relationships that would bring us work. So we're just letting our design team have more fun with it, basically, and just make it be a place where we can experiment.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. See what kind of things evolve. Maybe you discover something new by letting loose on it. That's what we've done on ours. And also just thinking about bringing in business in different ways. We've where the funnel starts is a wild thing. Where does that start for somebody who's looking for a designer, a branding, like somebody like you guys that basically helps with the branding as well as the brick and mortar overall implementation of it? Like, where does that source come from?
Yeah, that's a good question.
No, how does somebody know to reach out to you or find you or discover you?
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
I feel like if I were to like put an actual number on it, I don't know, probably 75% of our work is like just referral, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody comes into this restaurant and they see the space and they're like, this is dope. Who did this?
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. The work speaks for itself. And
we've been really lucky to have some partners and clients that tell our name constantly. Gather's been amazing in that. Gather, the co-working space, we've done all 7 of their locations as they've grown. And it was really amazing. They're community managers who are sort of basically the folks who hang out at the reception desk and talk to every single person that comes in. People would say the space is beautiful. And they'd be like, oh, our friends at Campfire did it. And they said that to folks for years. And we got so many referrals. People were like, oh yeah, we found you through Gather. We found you through Gather. We found you through Gather.
Yeah. So it's like other
than like a really amazing thank you card, to be honest.
Yeah.
Still good
just a thank you card. Hey, thanks. All right. That's the only one you get.
Like establishing relationships with your clients so that when you walk away, they're still telling people your name in a positive way and saying, what we did here was because of our friends over at Campfire. That's been a very, very helpful growth tool for us.
That's how you guys came back to top of my mind when the episode with Duke. We were in that. And he was like, Campfire. I'm like, holy shit. Like every Campfire project is awesome as hell.
Thank you.
And I'm not sponsored by Campfire. I'm also, take it for a grain of salt. I'm an engineer, so I don't know. But I do know that it's noticeably different whenever I go into a space. And it's not a surprise if somebody says it's Campfire. It's like, wow, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If I walked into this, I would probably guess. Like, there's nobody in town that could make this good.
That's very kind. Richmond is full of really, really talented designers. And we're really lucky to work with clients that have strong vision and want to do something cool. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times where it really is like a true partnership, we're leaning into the things that they're amazing at. Like Liz, this is her 3rd or 4th restaurant. And she had a really strong idea and vision for that. And we were there to just kind of like make it amazing. The folks at the Jasper, who also opened Emerald Lounge and Slurp, they had a really strong vision for that experience. And we're kind of there to just like sort of mold that vision into something real. It helps a lot when your client has a really big input in sort of like what we're creating.
Did she come with the name in mind?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to ask you, that's pretty damn good. I mean, yeah. How much of this also did she have the color palette in mind and these patterns or something? Like, how did she describe that when she started, and how'd you pull more of it out?
Yeah, that's a good question. She had a strong vision for like the culinary concept. She had worked at an dim sum. I feel like we should have invited Liz to tell you the story.
Oh, yeah. We'll do another one with you, Liz. After hours with beers.
Yeah, exactly. She had worked at a dim sum restaurant previously. And so she had a strong sort of understanding of the experience of dim sum and the fact that it's very sort of theatrical. They would sort of push these carts around with like, you can choose between all these different awesome options. And so she wanted to make something that felt more like theatrical, immersive. And then also that coupled with this space used to be Max's, which was sort of like a high-end French restaurant. So it was very like light, bright, European feeling and wanting to like completely change that experience. So that also sort of influenced like a lot of the decisions we made. And she knew she didn't want it to be super traditional Chinese. We wanted it to feel more like a modern sort of take on the culinary flavors and experiences of that. And so that's why we're using like a lot of hot pink instead of like a more traditional red. And those are things that like we worked on together, right?
Man, there's 2 questions. I can't ask them at the same time. They're just such big questions. But let me jump forward a little bit. So you've gone through this consulting. And again, this may be somebody else's role, but you probably tangentially related to it because you write these proposals.
Sure.
So as you go through, gets into construction, somebody finds out they need like an architect or other professional. How do you get it? Because that's a different service altogether. Like the permit drawings themselves, which are like the ADA accessibility and all of that. Is that a difficult hurdle to get over? Or you guys generally include that in the package, or do you just let them know, hey, just so you know, you'll need to reach out also to get architectural plans?
Yeah. This is like a conversation I have with clients all the time. And I'm like, well, it could go about like 25 different ways.
Yeah.
So, depending on the scale of the project, the complexity, the comfort level with the, person doing the project, do they want to file for a permit? Do they feel like that's necessary? Is the contractor interested in that? Anyways, our ideal sort of scenario is kind of like two. One is we include the architect within our proposal because that role is really more of like a life and safety review. And they have kind of just like a final review to make sure everything is up to code and they stamp a set of drawings. So that's sort of like a more minimal technical role versus if it's a slightly bigger project and there's more of a need for like an architectural design input, then we'll either sort of like co-brand a proposal together, or we might even like separately write proposals but be in conversation with each other.
So then there's other ones where we on the Duke project, the Drift and Muse was it was Fultz and Singh on that.
Yeah, we love that stuff.
So did you guys start or had they started architectural and then you got brought in for branding? How did that relationship work?
Yeah, so because that was a brand new building, James over at Fultz Singh had been working on that project for I think at least a few years at that point. So they had been working together for a long time. They knew they were going to do the restaurant. And then so Duke reached out to us to do the interiors of the restaurant. But James and his team had already laid out kind of like the central floor plan and everything. And then we came in and made tweaks and then collaborated with them a few different times, I think on the construction documents, just to make sure all that was like tidied up. But they sort of had a relationship and then we came on board and there were some collaboration moments.
Like a virtual adaptive reuse project.
Sure.
So then it gets into construction, and I always ask this to architects because so much with architects and interior designers or branding experts, aesthetic is so important. With engineers, we just like ruin everything with giant ducts and ugly lights. So and I always think to myself, it's got to be difficult to advocate for the aesthetic because it comes at a cost. It requires a lot of coordination with other trades and compromises to be made all around. How difficult is that political battle during construction to fight for that design and that aesthetic?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like the best person to ask that question because I'm not the person that has to argue with people on the phone, fortunately. My sort of like role is like sort of a couple steps removed from that. But our ideal is that we're working with like contractors and clients who sort of share some similar values there and like understand kind of like what we're trying to do at the end of the day. If we can be on site as much as possible to like help make those decisions as they're coming up and answer questions. I mean, that's kind of standard stuff, but like because we work with clients that tend to have, just like slightly tighter budgets and things like that, like there is a lot that's going to happen during the construction phase and we want to be there as much as possible to make sure it's like, oh, actually, that's not exactly where we were wanting that. You put that fire thing kind of in a funky place. Let's move that sconce over a little bit, that kind of stuff. And that it's helpful that a lot of our work is local, that we're able to like be on site to help make those decisions.
So back to where you are involved at the proposal writing and thinking of what to propose to somebody, what kind of things did you guys do? We were talking about this before we started. Did you include in proposals hours of things that you ended up realizing, you can back that out and you don't need it anymore? People don't value it. We should focus on that other thing.
Yeah. I'm trying to think about, we've gone through a couple iterations of how we talk about our work. Brand strategy is something that, depending on kind of like how you're coming into working with us, it doesn't always seem necessary. At this point, I feel like the type of clients that we're working with tend to have some familiarity with that term and realize that like having a strategy and having sort of a big picture vision in place on sort of written first is a very helpful thing to have. And they do understand that value. So it's nice to be working with folks who really see that. We used to kind of like, this is really specific, but like line item that in a proposal. And now we don't. It's part of the deliverable. So if you're getting a brand identity or you're getting an interior design project from us, you are going to get brand strategy. We can't do the work without that.
That's the brakes.
Yeah, brakes on the car.
Brand strategy. So you can't do it right without the brand strategy.
Exactly.
Strategy integrated with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's exactly like the breaks that we've been trying to explore in this in our services. Little weird technicals. And again, an example for us, we used to calculate photometric emergency lighting calcs. It's like 8 hours of work or 4 hours we don't need to do. And I don't know. There's a lot that we used to do that we don't really need to. And then we would come off too far, and then people say, "These drawings I can't build from." So we add a little bit. We're trying to like find that sweet spot of like, you know, when most MEP firms in the larger, not the light commercial markets, they charge it, you know, $3 or $4 a square foot. Well, people don't want to pay in the light commercial more than $1 a square foot to maybe $2 a square foot, and that's expensive engineering. Yep. And so that's 3 times less the fee of what a standard engineer would be provided with in terms of time and commitment and thought. But it's really hard for us to communicate that is going to translate to drawings that require a lot of work on your end in the build on the build side.
Exactly. Like you're going to pay for it. You're either going to pay for it in the beginning or you're going to pay for it at the end, and it's going to hurt more in the end.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think it is. Yeah. Like emotionally, it's very, very hard. I think that we were talking kind of about the challenge of things being built the way you want to. What we've been trying to talk to clients about, at least basically things will come up in like as pain points through the team. And I will try to capture those and infuse those like learning moments into our inquiry meetings so that when I'm talking to a brand new client or potential client, we're sort of bringing up the idea that some of these things might happen later and it's okay, right? And so like a big piece of that is construction is messy and things will not go the way that we think they're going to go. And that is to be expected. Yeah. And that's not like a weird thing. It doesn't mean anybody's done anything wrong. It doesn't mean like the project is not okay. It doesn't mean we haven't done our job. It doesn't mean your contractor's not doing their job. There are plenty of times where that is happening, but more often than not, like clients just don't understand that construction is a very challenging, difficult, messy process, regardless of how well everything is done.
Yeah, some people expect the puzzle of construction to be put together as if you put a 1,000-piece puzzle in front of you and just you grab each piece and know exactly where it goes. Like it takes going like this over the puzzle, sorting it into colors, and then maybe going to the border. I don't know what your puzzle strategy is. Do you go border first?
You got to go corners first.
Corners?
Border first, yeah. And then you organize by like color and type, right?
Color. I've tried the border thing, and then I started realizing that border, I felt like I spent so much time just on finding the border pieces that
it's too much.
I've changed it to color first, organized by color.
I haven't done a puzzle in a while. My husband's not big into puzzles, but I'm a big fan. I did a lot of puzzles during the pandemic.
Yeah, I know. I have one on the table that my wife finally made me put away because I never finished it. It was like 4,000 pieces.
Jesus.
She was like,
I've never done that one big.
Yeah, no, neither have I. Tried. So but you know, sometimes I feel like people would imagine you just dump the puzzle in front of you and you're supposed to be expected to just grab the piece and go for the first try. And so trying to explain to people that it is messy, it's normal, and mistakes.
Yeah.
It's not even mistakes, it's just part of the process. Things don't go according to plan because it can't be planned. There's too many variables.
Exactly. You kind of like, you have like 4 steps up, 4 steps forward, 2 steps back. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like that ebb and flow. We had a client once who was a residential contractor, and we're talking to them all about their process because we were working on their website for them. And they mentioned, they were like, yeah, we have this one spot in the process called the chill pill. And it's like this one moment where he's like, clients, they always like, they reach a moment where like, no matter how well the project is going, they kind of just start freaking out.
Yeah.
And he was like, and we send him a gift card to go to dinner. And we say like, hey, we know this is hard. We want you to go out and have a night on us. And I was like, dude, that's brilliant.
That is good. Yeah.
The chill pill. I mean, they don't tell their clients that's what it's called.
Yeah, chill the fuck out. Just send them a letter.
I thought it was really smart.
That is true because it's stress. You never know what somebody's dealing with personally or what conversations they just had, and the blame games happen quickly in the construction world, and it gets tough. We've tried to deal with of regulating our emotions better as a team through the past year. As an engineer, I'd never really thought that would be so important. I thought it could just be numbers, but like we've realized how much it is to just keep an even temperament as much as possible. Assume no malice is a big thing around here because it's easy to assume in an email somebody's talking some shit or being an asshole, and they probably are, but let's just assume not. Give the benefit of the doubt just to power through and work toward a solution. And soon, because I just signed the final paperwork, we're going to be inviting a specific someone to our podcast, the someone who sued us for $500,000 for some shit we didn't design. But that person will be invited once we get our paperwork final. And I can't wait to talk to that person on the record about how it's weird to sue somebody for something they didn't design for something their brother messed up. But
Just hypothetical.
You're not
Yeah, as a hypothetical.
but you haven't made it unless you've been sued yet.
Exactly. You work until you get sued. That's what they say in this industry.
Yeah, I think it's happened to us at least once.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot and you tighten up your contracts.
Yep, that's exactly what we
did. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot in there that's critical that, on that particular project, the limitation of liability saved us. Our insurance covered it, but it's still $60,000 or $70,000 of attorney's fees to just defend a $500,000 bullshit lawsuit. It was excluded from our scope in the first place. It was equipment we didn't design on a roof we had nothing to do with. And the long story short, it had to be ripped off and redone. And they sued for all types of bullshit, $500,000. And we had to go through the process. I mean, you can't not go through it once you're listed as somebody on it. And ultimately it landed at our limitation of liability was always there and enforceable and very good. And we only got paid $10,000 for the thing in the first place.
Wow.
And so it's crazy to me, the risk that's out there for somebody who feels so firmly that like this can be your fault. And I can sympathize with their perspective. That's honestly the main reason for the podcast. We just started the conversation like, well, maybe people should understand what is the construction industry and what what it's really like. And so I think that ended up being a silver lining for us. Tighten up the contract is exactly what we did. And we tightened a little too much and then we've gone the other way.
Okay, sure. Yeah,
overcorrected.
We've done that too. We realized in our contract, we did not have a way to just leave a project.
Yes.
Like we couldn't, if we had done something, it was like, we're in it. There's no way for us to walk away. And we're like, that's not good.
Yeah, that is not good.
Because if you get yourself in a situation where like the client is terrible and by terrible, I mean like truly,
terrible.
like demeaning and rude and like just bad, and you can't walk away. We couldn't walk away from the project.
Without breach of contract.
And then we watched the client sue every single other person on the project. And it was just like, we were just waiting. And then I was like, okay, we were waiting for that.
Yeah.
And we knew it was coming. But he's actually going to go to jail now.
Nice. We can get him on the podcast when he gets out.
Yeah. When he's back and everything settles down, we maybe get on the podcast.
I hope he's never back.
Yeah.
He goes to jail for a long time.
Well, we've had that happen, and that's where we've learned a lot about emotional regulation. I've had a few moments where I've just not said what I could have been smarter with how I said things, type whatever with those kinds of clients. But I've definitely fired people before. Somebody was telling me, I won't name any names. Don't want to.
Oh God, I don't want to.
Yeah, no. But he was just being like, oh, y'all, I've never seen somebody so unprofessional. I forget exactly what he was. He was talking so rudely about our employees and then how we were the worst like firm. And I'm like, you realize we haven't even started working together. Why are you even hiring me? Why are you saying this stuff? And then at the same time wanting to hire me? In my head, I'm thinking, because you're a gaslighting piece of shit. So that's just how you treat people. Like you just want to treat me this way. But you still want to hire me. So I said, we're not going to take the project. And then the next thing I know, he's childish. He hit me up on LinkedIn. Do you even know who I am? I know every developer and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, jeez.
Because I fired him from hiring me.
Yeah.
And it never went anywhere. He was just that way. Some people are just terrible people.
Or just like on a power trip or something. Yeah. We are honestly lucky enough to have had that happen very few times.
Yeah.
And the vast majority of our clients are really amazing people. And I was like thinking about it this morning, like what we're going to talk about, because you guys are really sneaky. You don't like send me any pre-questions. I didn't prepare at all. It's like fully off the cuff.
We don't prepare.
I have like a 1-year-old. I'm very sleep deprived. I was like, who knows what's going to come out in this conversation? Yeah. But truly, I was like, Campfire is my dream job. And I feel like most of our team feels that way too, which is really special. And a big part of that is that the clients we work with are awesome. Yeah. They trust us to help them make their dreams come true, which is a very cool thing to get to do for a living.
I wish we got to do that. You guys get to work.
I feel like in a way you do.
People mostly just get frustrated at our stuff because it's expensive or in the way.
Yeah.
It's tough because we know it's important, but
for sure
you're doing something that people see and feel, and you describe that feeling. And when they leave here, they feel a certain type of way. And for us, this is a little bit more difficult to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to like describe the value.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If we do our job right, you don't notice that we did anything.
Right.
And so we only get a call if it's not
messed up,
comfortable.
For sure.
HVAC.
Yes.
One of my favorite
Hair's
lines.
blowing in my face. What's wrong with this?
Yeah.
I guess I didn't tell you guys this yet, but both my parents are mechanical engineers.
Oh, really?
So my dad, my grandfather started a mechanical engineering firm. They do MEP work in Hampton Roads.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Where
Thompson Consulting Engineers.
I had a job offer from
almost
them.
wore my shirt today.
Really?
That was sweet.
Sorry about not taking the job offer
It's all good.
to Thompson, but we back when my career, I forget it's the partner that's I guess passed away a few years ago.
Yeah, George.
I interviewed with him and I had an offer and everything, and then I went, and then my boss countered it, and then I felt terrible because they were great. I was going to move over there and work for them. It's a good firm. Really good engineers. I mean, engineers, MEP guys.
Yeah. They do way more like, institutional work.
Yeah.
I feel like them. Do you guys, so that's a question I have for you all. Do you guys have industries that you really specialize in and you want to be in? Or are you sort of like, we'll go where the market takes us?
Real quick, they designed the police station at Hopewell.
Really?
Near my, yeah.
Are you talking City Point? I can't get
Yeah,
into
City Point, you don't have access.
like super access.
Sorry, I had it because he's anyhow. So we do focus on light commercial, basically anything that we think could be scaled as much as possible, where very few engineers want to do it. So where there's a lack of supply, because no engineer really wants to be doing small projects.
Sure.
Not what they go to school for. Chances are, if you're a mechanical engineer or an electrical engineer, you definitely didn't go to school to do construction engineering at all. Like you're trying to build like cars or Teslas or some shit. That's why you're there, not to put rectangular pieces of metal with air flowing through them into buildings. And so on top of that, to be on like the least interesting like subset of the least interesting subset is kind of where I wanted my business to be, because then there's no competition. If we could scale that, like that's why we have the instant quote and tools, and we're about to release some interesting new ideas. But making it easier, our whole mission is to make small engineers accessible in the small project market, the light commercial market. So then all nationwide, eventually once when we're ready to just scale nationwide, we want to just consume all of that market. Even those that are doing large 40-story buildings still have tenants and turnover there that they need an engineer for. And they want the Thompson consulting engineers doing the high rise, and the permit zip can just handle all the TI work and let their engineers stay focused. So that's our market, wherever that lies. A lot of restaurants, a lot of offices, breweries, churches, multifam. We do a lot of multifam because it's commodity as well. Like 200 unit things. It's not a small project, but it's very easy to turn that out and to scale that.
It's also hard to just not be in that industry at all right now.
Yeah.
Like everybody's like, well, I guess
I'll do that.
I guess we're all doing that now. Huh?
Because nobody's moving into the offices. I think we
just recently started doing more, like in the last few years, started doing more identity design, branding, and signage design for multifamily spaces. We don't do any interior design for residential spaces because residential work does not have like a brand identity associated with it. So we're really kind of like the only interiors work we do has to have some type of brand work. But for multifamily projects, there is a brand associated with it, especially as like more and more competition shows up and more places are built, and folks are sort of vying for the right amenities and getting the right tenants. And so we're doing identity design, and then have expanded that into like signage, how brand shows up in the space.
It's so cool. I mean, this is a great, we're really on the design topic. I love this, but you just said a lot of things that are easy to just pretend like we shouldn't go back on them. But like identity design, brand identity, all of these things I think businesses should be thinking about, even if you're in the engineering world. So let me give you a pop quiz when you're consulting.
I'm excited.
Let's say I'm an electrical contractor in the city of Richmond, just your standard run of the mill. I maybe even have a Gmail account. I mean, and I do all the projects, because I've been doing it forever. People trust me. I'm great at it, but I have no brand identity. How do you even start that conversation?
I mean, first there has to be, from the client side, from that engineer, there has to be a desire for some type of shift, right? Like, what is the catalyst for that? Are they thinking, I've been working by myself and I kind of want to grow a team of a couple people, or I've got a couple bigger projects I want to start pitching for? There has to be like some sort of, typically when clients come to us, there's some like seed of not just like, I want to be better, which is like, I would love for the whole world to just believe that like design makes our community better and they want to invest in it. But actually a lot of people want to have like some sort of reason. And, like typically that's like a business reason at the end of the day. Like, how's this going to help me do better business, get more clients, make more money, stay around longer, win over the competition, something like that. So
this pretend scenario, I am close to probably 5 or 10 years out of my exit strategy, and I'm realizing I need to exit somehow.
Sure.
So I need a brand to sell.
Sure.
I got cash flow. I mean, I have a good free cash flow, and on the book, it's okay. Somebody may buy it, and in fact, it's desirable. But I want to get as much as I can out of this transaction. So branding is what I'm after. How do I achieve this?
If I'm understanding your question correctly, how do you begin that conversation?
Yeah, because I'm thinking of somebody who's so far Gmail account. They're so far out of it, but they want it so bad.
So many clients come to us with Gmail accounts.
Yeah, that's better than Yahoo.
No shade. Well, touche. I feel like there's clients, right? You get AOL or something. No, but that is one of the things. We will
dial up.
I grew up in Hampton Roads. They have Cox.net. That's a real
some terrible one. Branding there.
Yeah. But. We'll have clients come in with a Gmail account, and I'd be like, okay, no shade, but we're gonna graduate to a custom URL, and that's gonna show your clients that you care enough about your own professionalism that you're gonna bring that sort of care and attention to their work, whatever it is you're doing with them. Mm-hmm. Right, if we respect ourselves and our own brands and how we present ourselves, that shows our clients that we're gonna bring that level of care and attention to detail to their whatever it is we're doing. Mm-hmm. So client comes to us, they don't really know what it is they want. They know they want to be more professional. They know they kind of have been in the business long enough to have something that looks mature and looks established. And then we talk through that strategy session. Basically, we listen to as much as we can. Our clients, even though they might not know about design and branding, they know about themselves and they know about their industry. And so we want to respect that knowledge and institutional sort of history that they've created, and we want to hear as much of that as we can, and then we help them understand where we might take that visually, and as much of that is an influence from us and what we think is a strong recommendation, we're also listening and asking again, okay, here's options, here's directions, what do you think, what are you drawn to? Yeah. Because we think that it needs to be sort of some combination of being polished and reflective of a personality that it connects to the brand, and also thinking about and reflecting the audience that it's going to be in front of. And then that third piece is really what is reflective of the person that's behind the table, right? All three of those things combined are going to create something that feels really personalized, distinctive, and, special.
So this meeting, you one of the early discovery meetings. You're still involved. You're helping pull these out. I'm already kind of just you talking about it. I'm thinking of my imaginary electrical contractor world. I'm like, maybe I could have the .com. And okay, it's not so $5 a month. Okay, fine, whatever. And then suddenly these ideas are coming forward. What does that first deliverable look like? Do you then take that and then just put together some sort of proposal? What does that look like?
Well, so we'll first have an inquiry meeting with a client where we're sort of doing we're almost giving them a peek at the strategy session, right? Where I am asking them some similar questions about where are they in their process? Tell me about your business. What is it like? Tell me about your audience. What are your goals? And then from there, we'll, write a proposal from that session. But the idea is that they walk away being wow, that was really amazing. They asked me a lot of great questions. I feel really taken care of. I feel excited to see what's coming next. We'll talk them through the process, et cetera. Then we'll put together a proposal that is going to be more than just here's the scope of work. It's going to say, here's what I heard. Here's what I think is important. Here's what I think works for you. I feel personally, not to give away our secret sauce, but I feel our proposals are really special, and we put a great deal of time into them. And I feel what I learned from working at a larger design firm is that that proposal process is a moment where you can make a really big impact. And especially as a smaller design team, a lot of other folks don't. It's rare for a company our size to have somebody who is so dedicated to marketing. And so we really want to use that opportunity to show people through that proposal process of they're going to get this document back that they haven't paid us anything. They just had one meeting. They're going to get a document back that says I listened to you. I understand you. Mm-hmm. I know what's important to you. And I see a vision for how our work could really help you. And we get a lot of great feedback on our proposal saying hey, this is really awesome. I'm wow, I was super impressed with this. And so we put a lot of time into that one specific moment to help win work.
Yeah. More effective maybe than some of our time what we spend on the social media places we've said, right?
Absolutely.
Like it reminds me of when I had the recording studios. I would get somebody and just give them 5 free hours in the studio and just say, hey, just 5 free hours. And then they'd hear themselves and they hear the music and then they start to get excited. And then you can't unimagine that. You're stuck. You're like, damn it. And then I was like, hey, we could do an album this summer. And they're like, fuck yeah, we're doing an album. I'll say, well, then put the drums up. We got 2 hours left. Let's get some drum tracks down. And then you can't not fill that dream in and you're just hooked.
Yeah.
And so it seems like that might have a similar effect.
For sure.
That's just,
I think it helps that this is unintentional, but I think it helps that my role is to talk to clients first. And then I'm also the person helping out with brand strategy, right? Because I'm taking all of that knowledge and that skill set as a facilitator of those sort of big picture conversations. And I'm pulling that into basically our sales conversation to sort of help them feel like this is what it would be like to work together, right? And then they sort of get to go back and decide whether or not that's a good fit for them. But usually I would say, we were just talking with our professional CFO the other day. We were talking about what's in the pipeline, what we've won, what we've lost. And I was looking at the list of projects that didn't end up following through after the proposal. And 90% of them were projects that just weren't a good fit. It wasn't that they chose someone else or a project we really wanted that didn't end up coming through. It was just kind of at the end of the day, actually, I just don't think we were a good fit for that. And I'm okay with the fact that we didn't win that work.
Amrit is very big on that as well with Shultz and Singh. He talks about that. And I can't identify with that because it's so much more of a transaction for MEP engineering. And my good fit is that market I described. It's a lot easier, that decision matrix. And I do think we should spend more time deciding who we don't want to just filter out some of the riffraff type of people. But it's a lot easier for us. It's got to be
what
more,
your red flags are is helpful.
And so what does that look like? What is that intuition like? How do you start to know when it's not the right fit?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there's a couple of key things ease of communication is a really big one for us. We're really process driven and we're very we have strong boundaries. We don't really want to have you send us text messages at 7 p.m. about a project idea. We want to sort of live our lives outside of work, and we want you to do that too. And then when we're present out. I was not expecting that.
So I had to throw that in there. Just one air horn. Sorry.
It's okay. But we want to live our lives outside of work and we want to be present at work. And when we're present, we can give you our everything and we're going to go above and beyond because that's just what we do. But we want to set good boundaries. So when clients don't have great communication ability in the very, very beginning, they're not great with email, they're having a hard time setting up a meeting because they're going back and forth. They don't really feel like they know how to use Zoom or something, not to be biased against people who aren't great with technology, but truly that's how our process works. Yeah. So if you aren't someone who wants to communicate via email, you're not someone who is going to be comfortable on a Zoom call. If these things aren't comfortable for you, we're probably just not the right partner because that's how we do our work. So that's an early red flag. It's just how easy are you to communicate with?
And how savvy with technology? That's probably a similar red flag. Somebody who gives us submittals from faxes.
Yes, photo, picture scan.
Yeah. Go ahead. What were you saying?
I was going to say, how do you deal with the client who, speaking of red flags, is hiring you guys because they want you to handle this because they don't know much about it, like your electrical contractor example, but they pick apart at every decision you make. They have a hard time, I guess, trusting y'all's judgment because we deal with that on our side, and it's probably a little more frustrating on y'all's side because it's something more real that is more about feelings.
Yeah,
so how do you deal with that? Feelings.
How do you deal with feelings?
Yeah, how do you deal with feelings?
I feel like keep reading things and Instagram keeps telling me I gotta feel my feelings, right? No. That does come up on both sides, right? Interiors and graphics. You have clients that have a hard time knowing what they want. And that can be challenging because when you get a client, it's well, I don't really know what I want until I see it, which is an extremely labor-intensive way to work. The thing that I'll say that we always come back to, and we'll even talk to our team about this, right? If we have some team members that are struggling with a client who's kind of they feel is making them iterate more than they want to. First of all, we have a process that we try really hard to stick to. And so when folks say well, how many, revisions do I get? It's well, that's not really how we work, right? We have 4 meetings and we're going to accomplish the project in those 4 meetings.
I like that.
That's especially impressive. You guys have that much of a strict process for something that's very
iterative.
Yeah,
Well, that's
iterative.
for branding. Interior is a little bit longer, but for like a typical sort of medium-sized company that wants to go through a branding project, it's 4 meetings. There's more leaders involved, if there's more things happening, we're adding in scope, like it's going to grow. But the amount of iterations you get or amount of revisions is just the amount of meetings we have on the calendar. And if you want to do more meetings, then it's more scope, right? Yeah. So that's like one way that we handle that. But in terms of like actually working through it emotionally with clients, for us, it's really about the strategy session. And so it's like coming back to the goals that we talked about. What is the thing that you said that you wanted in the beginning? Where did you want to land? What was the vision? What's the personality? And then we can kind of talk through like, this is why what we've done has fulfilled that brief, right? And so like helping clients pull back to not just like, well, but today I don't like sans serif fonts. And it's like, well, we landed on sans serif fonts because we talked about wanting your brand to feel fresh and modern and friendly. And that's why this fulfills the vision. And it kind of helps clients remove their personal, like whatever is going on with them that day. And we talk about that a lot because when we first started Campfire, we worked with a lot of clients that was basically just like solopreneurs, what I call them, but it's like, it's their business. It might not be named after them, but it's just them and it's their business. And so there's a lot of emotion, a lot of personal sort of vision wrapped up in that. And when you get too connected to your brand, it then has the ebb and flow of like your own personal emotional ebb and flow, which is volatile and like not great for consistency and reliability from like a client side, right?
Yeah, so it's like every suggestion or tweak that you might, it's like a personal attack, but it feels that way. It's like, this is me.
Yeah,
I am
or
my
like
brand. My brand
today
is me.
I feel really excited about red, and tomorrow I feel like red is harsh. And it's like, okay, well, we're going to remove like our own personal opinions, and we're going to think from the perspective of the brand, or we're going to use at least that as a lens, right? Because it is helpful to like small businesses are always going to have the vision of their founders in the identity, but we want to be like siblings or like in a partnership perhaps with our brand. We don't want to be the brand.
Yeah. So you said there's graphics and then there's interiors. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So I mean, I knew that, but
figuring it out.
Yeah. It's just it's always been fascinating, your business, because first of all, your website's always been fucking awesome. And for the first time I saw it,
a lot of time on it.
yeah, I'm like, man, this is a really cool brand. Somebody must be really good at branding there.
Tell your friends.
Yeah. So the graphics side of things and the interior side, man, that's wild. So you have people dedicated to the graphics, right? And that's just what they do. And then,
I mean, in the beginning, to be frank, our team was really like hybrid in terms of our skill set. So Lauren and Christina are really magical designers, and they have a background academically in interior design, which is like a slightly more sort of technical, like academic background. And then they were just basically had a personal interest and passion for graphic design. And so they started the company with the idea of combining both of those disciplines. And, we're doing some logos here and there and when they just started. And then I think High Point Barbershop was one of our first actual interiors clients.
That was one of our first electrical projects. And I think when in Scott's Edition that you did in the ARC building.
Yeah. That was a really fun one.
I remember being like, damn, this lighting package is awesome. I could tell there was a lot of thought that went into the presentation of the design from a technical standpoint as well, as much as there was the aesthetic, but like it was really well prepared. Architects are great at that also. Like beautiful documents and engineers all right, here's your specs. Good luck.
They've been an amazing client. And the first one that we worked on was on Meadow Street. And we're a very, very new company. We learned a lot from that experience. But like being a barber, there's so much of that profession is about lighting, right? About having your subject lit so you can properly cut their hair, right? And doing like a shave and all that stuff.
We're going to do a haircut.
We learned a lot about lighting, and there's some lessons learned from that experience. So the one in Scott's Edition was their second location. So they brought a lot of like, okay, now that we've done that once, here's all the stuff we need to do with lighting. But you had a question about graphics and interiors, and I'm going to circle back to that.
Yeah.
In the beginning, a lot of our team could do both. And the thing about hiring people that can do both interior design and graphic design is incredibly difficult. That's like a unicorn, basically. So
yeah,
Lauren and Christina are very unique in the aspect that they had not only an interest in both, but they were good at both. And so I think that's one of the things that make Campfire really special in the beginning. And at this point, we now are we've hired a team of people who have a little bit more specialty in sort of like their own unique, in sort of their own discipline, but still have a really strong vision for both, right? So our senior interior designer, Rachel, she actually has a background in architecture, working on really big projects, but she has a strong passion for interiors. And she had her own blog for a long time. She has her own like Instagram where she does that stuff. She built her own website to like promote her blog. She had this really strong understanding of how to then apply the concept of talking about and thinking about interiors into that graphics perspective. And then on the graphics side, we have a team who brings multiple diverse perspectives from like one of our graphic designers did not go to school for graphic design, right? Like his background is more in like marketing and business, and sort of he's bringing that perspective to the table. So it's been interesting because a lot of our team members we've hired don't have like basically a traditional path to design. And we kind of like it that way because it sort of adds a unique lens to our work.
Yeah.
I like us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
trying to figure out how to do a podcast, and I want to ask this question, and you on your proposals basically it's probably, I would imagine, a very visually beautiful graphical document that helps just somebody visualize what's going to happen. I can just only imagine that's what you do. In this world of graphics design and interior design, how easy is it to decide when the work is done?
Not easy at all.
When I edit, I can't, I'm like, I don't know. I could do one more edit. I could add this. Oh, damn it. And you notice this. Like, how do you decide?
Well,
I'm going to
like
stop.
a team is really what helps with that, I think.
Yeah.
So even though our team is small, all of our projects have like a creative director, project manager, and then a project designer, right? So there's somebody who is going to be thinking about the big picture. How does this design meet the strategy and the personality and the brief? And then there is going to be the person who is like pushing the pixels, right? And they're the one that's like really in the weeds of doing the work. And there's a constant back and forth between those folks. And that's how basically you have someone else to be like, I think we're good here.
Yeah.
And then also like the meetings tomorrow. So like we got to pick up pencils and press print, right?
point.
Well, we used to press print. Now we just PDF to print.
Yeah.
Right?
Press print.
Print to PDF.
This may be a controversial topic. I don't know.
Can't wait.
How much has, and feel free to not answer anything, but has AI changed the dynamic of your work? It's because it's so central to graphic design, for sure. It's certainly right down the road for us in engineering and design. I'm sure it's impacted you. I don't know. Just tell me about what it's been like.
It's been like really not a lot of impact just yet. I just went to this conference the other day though, and there was a woman there who did a presentation, and it did sort of make me feel inspired to think about ways that we can be more efficient, right? Like at this point, the way that AI is going to help us, especially as a small firm, is to find ways to make things that take 3 hours to make them take 1 hour, right? And then to take that 2 hours and be like, how can I be strategic with this extra time and put it somewhere really valuable? But I think there's going to be a curve of not a lot of people doing that and kind of being ahead of like, okay, we've captured some extra time. We're a little bit ahead of that, but then everybody's going to catch up and everybody's going to be doing that. And then we're all there, right? And then we have to sort of leverage like, okay, how, again, are we going to be like somewhat different with this? I probably have more concerns about AI than I do have like optimistic feelings. But like
it's
today,
like terrifying.
I used
and
it.
Awesome.
I basically just use it to help me write. Like writing is a task that I do a lot in the office, and I used to be like the person that people would come to help them write difficult emails. That was like one of my office skills.
In-house GPT.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I know you're really mad, but I'm going to rewrite this. Like, okay, I think. Anyways. So it's helped with, writing challenging emails, but also just like we submit for like design awards, and a part of what you have to do for design awards is answer a bunch of questions about the challenges and yada, yada, yada of like the whole design process. And, so I can take my nice little bulleted list of all the ideas and like plop that into chat, and it's going to spit me back out my design narrative, and I can edit that. And so I literally did that this morning, and something that probably would have taken me 4 hours took me like 1, which was very cool. It's
just, what did Max Neverman said? AI won't replace people. People using AI will, or something like that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, people using AI will replace people.
Yeah. And it is. I'm also equally terrified at like the potential worst case scenarios of what it means. There's a lot of ethical questions with it as well, but there's a lot of regulatory questions with engineering and supervision that were related. But there's a lot of really creative things that can be done. We just last night I was looking at building a marketplace app called Looksy, and there's this something sharetribe.com. It allows you to do that very quickly, and within a day you can have like a 2-sided marketplace app built. And we're building one that will allow us to put people into buildings across the country, so that you could just say, hey, is somebody near this building? Can you get in there with your cell phone? And so I can look at it. It's called Looksy. It's looksy.com. It's not really out yet, but we're working on that and to try to scale small projects and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But one way I was able to use AI is I was looking at the source code, and I know some little bit of software, but I'm like trying to figure out what I can do to customize the base code.
Okay.
And I swear this will be not too nerdy, but just take the code. Yeah, right. I took the code and just pasted it and say, tell me what's this doing. Tell me what it's doing. Wow. And so then it would explain to you what's going. So then you don't even need to be a software developer. You can go in there and just like kind of look at the names of the files, brilliant. Get in there and just say what it's doing. And then you could say, what could be done to add this feature? Look at this code base. Mm-hmm. Where would I add this feature, or can it be done? Mm-hmm. And it was giving me those answers and just describing to me the JavaScript.
We do like a handful of custom coding. We do web design in addition to branding. We really only do web design for clients. We've already done branding. It's kind of like basically an add-on service. But we dabble in like custom coding, and there's more and more tools out there that's made that easier and easier for us. But I hadn't actually thought about the idea of just being able to be like, hey, I have this thing, like tell me how to make this look a different color or something like that. That's awesome. Tell
me what's going on, a CSS file or whatever it is that you guys added, HTML or JavaScript. Mm-hmm. As for me, JavaScript just blows my mind. The syntax really fucks in my head. Yeah, it's just like, I'm like, can you describe to me the syntax step by step what's happening? It broke it down, and it was the best. I've never understood JavaScript better. And it was all from ChatGPT 4.0, the whatever the new one is. I'm like, holy shit. Okay, cool. Now I know what I can talk to the team about and just say, hey, I want to implement these new features. It requires custom code. Go here, and this is where you do it. And so there's that side of it, but then there's the other side of it.
Yeah, I'm very inspired by. I feel like you guys have a similar ethos to Campfire in that you are intrigued by like what could be better, and you're constantly trying to teach yourself how to record and tape a podcast. I was saying earlier, I was like, I think they're going to videotape it, and I was like, there's got to be a more modern term for that. That's not
get the camera,
do anymore.
The VCR.
But I feel like that's like that's a strong sort of origin story for Campfire, is like us being like, we think we could do something like that, or that seems cool. Let's try it. Let's figure it out. We'll do probably even half the amount of research that you guys seem to be doing. And then we'll just learn by like making mistakes. Yeah. And we love doing that stuff. We're like constantly ideating, what could we do next? Do we want to do a podcast? Do we want to host a conference? Do we want to sell digital products? Like, I feel like that's I don't know, a thing that we share with you guys. And
the
curiosity to explore is huge in entrepreneurship. You just kind of have to be almost obsessed with you can't not ask the question like, well, what if we did that? Next thing you know, I'm up all night doing JavaScript, and then I built Looksy and it's working, and we were supposed to talk about it this morning. But that's how Room Trotter. I don't know if you're familiar with Room Trotter. It's a sister company that it's just a website where you use JotForm. You go in, you punch in the square footage, and it'll give you a price for how much it will cost to do a scan. And basically all it does is does a little form calculation per square foot, and then you can use Square Pay, and then it'll send a Slack notification to a few trotters that we have, and they pick up the jobs. And so it's just a way to get people to do local scans, 3D scans. But same thing, it just happened because we were trying to sell to Dominion Energy. We're just like, well, let's build this company so we could tell them we have this scanning company. And they just did it. And it's been the best cash flowing business ever. It has like no overhead. It's just earning money. I'm like, why am I even, Permazip's so stressful. We always got clients and lawsuits. And meanwhile, Room Trotter, you don't even pay attention. It just makes money.
That's great.
But yeah, it was an accident. I'm wondering, man, we should do more of those random things. There was the website. So how much of that? How do you do that? What platform do you use? Like, how do you?
We work in Squarespace. That's like our bread and butter. We started using it like 10 years ago, and we tried out a couple different things. We'll occasionally do a Shopify site. We have a Shopify developer that we'll collaborate with. If clients are trying to do something really robust, like super custom, and they want to build some crazy WordPress thing, we're just not a great fit for that. But we can like really do something super cool in Squarespace. We've like been working in it so long. We know where to like color within the lines and where to break it and do something cool. And 9 times out of 10, our clients want to do all of their maintenance and updates in-house. They don't want to pay for that. They don't want to pay for a developer to constantly be maintaining their security and site and stuff like that. And so Squarespace is a really awesome tool for that. And it just has like continued to get better and better. So
Squarespace, what was the other one you said?
Shopify.
Shopify. They've done some really cool things with like commerce and the little app, and that's really cool.
That's like basically if your business is driven by e-commerce, then that's like the platform to go with.
We use Wix, and that's kind of neat, but we'll probably end up abandoning it for something different because we need more custom features. But yeah, so we'll wrap up soon because we're getting close to our hour mark. But your contractor, he's sold. He's there. He gets his 4 meetings, and by the end of that, he ends up likely with a brand identity now.
Sure.
An actual .com. Do you insist on .coms or do you let people?
Oh no.
Yeah.
No, like there's so few left.
Yeah, I know, and they're expensive.
You just got to go somewhere
Anything
like
remotely
and
good.
honestly, I feel like other things is like way more fun.
Yeah.
When we this was like 10 years ago, we worked with a brewery and they got their website like .beer, and I was just like, oh my god, that's like the coolest thing ever. You know, now everybody does that stuff, but
there's been a couple, the .ly one where people made some fun brands with like Bitly and all of that. You can play with that. So I would imagine you'd probably propose like a website and the brand identity with that. That kind of person.
So a lot of folks will take them through after wrapping up with brand. We'll build out that website experience, everything from mapping out the content to supporting wireframing out the design. We have a copywriting partner that we work with. Her name's Rachel Burns. She writes the majority of the content for most of the sites we work on, and then we'll layer that in. We'll connect them with a photography partner, and then build out the site and input all the content, help them launch it, train them on how to use it, all that.
It makes sense why a big client is the restaurant, food, entertainment industry, because it's about user experience. And brand identity, it's starting to make sense. Like it has to be there. You have to have the brand identity so you can give them the experience of this brand. I definitely feel like I'm experiencing the brand in this, and it's part of the enjoyment of the brand is that user experience and the brick and mortar side.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to get to work with Liz on the website for this project too.
Oh, cool.
Food and beverage brands don't always want to like go full like big website build because it just doesn't tend to be like a massive, driver for them of so sometimes they'll build something in-house, but we were able to do the website and do like some really fun stuff and add like more like brand experience moments. So like you go to the website to check out the menu and the hours and things like that, and you start to get a look and feel and experience of what it would be like if you came here.
Do you have clients like that you seek out that you could just see so much opportunity, kind of like a real estate investor sees like equity? If they put this tenant here and they made that change, there'd just be a $400,000 value. Did you see those kind of brands and seek them out?
It's funny because I feel like to do that is very delicate, right? Because to walk into a business where someone has poured their heart and soul into what they've created and then tell them like, actually, this kind of sucks.
We
don't really do that.
Sell. Like, hey, I'd love to make this not suck.
It's funny you say that though, because the other day, I'm going to put him on blast, but I had coffee with Mike Plantania at BizSense. And we love the folks over there. They're like such awesome supporters of Campfire. And I was like, hey, do you have like a designer you work with? Because like, honestly, we made this list recently of like potential dream clients. And I was like, we talk to the folks at BizSense all the time. I'm on that website a lot. I get their email newsletter. And then Style Weekly did this amazing rebrand recently. I don't know if you guys saw anything about that, but they kind of like relaunched after they got, they kind of went away and then they got bought and then they did this big rebrand. Anyways, I'll give a shout out to the designer A for Adventure did that rebrand. It's really special, really awesome. Anyways, it really inspired me and I was like, oh my God, what if BizSense would let us do an amazing rebrand for them?
Come on, BizSense, it's going to be sweet.
No, but no shade on them. Like they do amazing work. And the more I learn about the challenges of local news and how essential it is for us to like support that and have that, and how special it is that we have that kind of thing happening here, basically. Like, there's so many places in the country where there is no local news and you only have to rely on national news. And it's special that they're here. And I applaud the work that we've been doing.
I could see that. And it's like, hey, I know how to do a kickflip, but Carter, you're going to teach me how to do a 360 flip.
Sure.
So that's a new trick.
Yeah.
So you're already doing some cool stuff. It's an amazing brand already.
The ideal client is someone that is doing something awesome and they just want to take that experience and present it in a way that is as incredible as the work that they already do, right? That's the ideal.
I mean, in a lot of ways, that would feel so good to have, because it's not my strength. And so I spent so many hours thinking about Looksy last night. Just like, oh, no, is this the right logo? Is this the right words to say here? Is this the right experience for the user? The business design is easy for me to imagine. I can put this here and put this in the interface here. And this would lead, it's lead flow for us. I mean, imagine the idea of all of these people all around the country getting Looksies, and if the information for that included, we would call it a Looksy report, part of the process is some information about what it is and what they want to do with it, and they get a Looksy rating A through F of this is a good or bad idea based on how much it might cost you to fuck with it. Okay. And so that Looksy rating comes along, but we also are going to end up having the square footage of the building and the use and occupancy. So why not go ahead and send a proposal for MEP services along the way, because that's all we need for the proposal for PermaZip. What if we could partner with architects? But hey, would you want us to give you automated proposal for due diligence studies? It can't be too complicated to do due diligence. You don't get way in over your head. If we partnered with a few architecture firms, imagine going to a website, punching the square footage in a city for a project or a building that you want, and having all of these proposals for services, engineering and soft costs, or getting in the building and a Looksy rating, all right there to just get to the point very quickly. That's what that's about. But the branding side, how to present that, it's like deadlock. I just get I don't know.
Yeah. So it's who's your audience? Yeah. What do you want them to feel? Yeah. And I think there's a range of the kind of work that Campfire does. A lot of the brands that we work on, we're really talking about brands that have a strong impact, right? A lot of people are engaging with that brand, and it's really essential that experience be something really unique. I'm saying this all to say that not every single brand has to go through a super intensive identity process, but I do think at the end of the day, you're going to make decisions, and those decisions do mean something, right? So it's important to be intentional, even if you're not hiring professional support.
Do you guys have the way our lawyer, do you just have hourly rates? People hey, can I bother you for some advice? And then you just bill hourly, or does it always fixed fee proposal type stuff? That would be awesome to have a brand consultant that you could just ask.
I mean, for special friends, we would, sure. But I've said this before, but we're super process driven. It's if we don't have it laid out in front of us, it's hard for us to figure out the parameters to be creative in. So we like having the bumpers so that we can then just kind of do the creative, and within those bumpers, it's really helpful for us to kind of start through that full identity process. And then at that point, if clients want to work on a retainer basis, or they want to help out hourly, or they just want our advice on other stuff, it's yeah, sure, totally.
Yeah, because there's kind of almost a support of the brand that it kind of needs to continue for some period of time.
That's the ideal. We would love to work with clients in a way where we are setting up that sort of foundation. We're setting up the strategy. We're setting up the visual standards. Even from an interiors perspective, if we're working with a client that has multiple locations, we worked with Gelati Celesti, Gather, High Point, places like that. We start to create what we call signature brand details, right? What are the things that you're carrying over to each new space? And then what are the things that change and become new, and sort of setting up all of that so that you can sort of move forward more easily. And then in between that, we can sort of be creative and add things, do collateral, other sort of one-off fun projects and stuff.
This last question, we got to wrap, or else I could just ask you 1,000 questions about branding for the rest of the day. But I'm curious. I've always been totally confused how you scale cool, and you guys have been consistently cool.
That's very
for that long. And so how do you hire? How do you keep that brand? How do you keep that vibe? And how do you hire for it? And how do you, what the hell? How does that work?
That's so nice. Yeah. Do we do that intentionally? We're in the business of aesthetics, right? So we're building our team not only based on cultural fit and people who have the skills to do what we want to do, but also they have a vision for the work and a perspective, right? The nice thing about hiring in modern times is I can look at your Instagram, your website, I can look at all these places that you've self-curated about yourself. Not that we're trying to only hire quote unquote cool people, but
Well, I mean, you kind of got to be cool.
but you have to have a perspective that feels like unique or inspired, right? Like we work in a very creative industry and we want our team members to be super, super creative and apply that and feel like that's a part of their lives. And I think when you're working in an industry like that, there's a lot of opportunity to let people lean into that. And then like from there, I'll say we're a super casual office. Like that's one of the things I love about Campfire is that we've built kind of this lifestyle business where we can sort of live the lifestyles we want and the business supports that, right? It's less about like growing an empire and more about just building something that allows us to be the people we want to be. And so at the office, like if you want to be super buttoned up and whatever, that's your thing. That's cool. If you want to be like super casual, that's great. We're just like, there's no preconceived notion that you need to bring like a certain version of yourself to the table. And I think that that lets people be more like authentic and creative.
Yeah. How much of this is needing to be riff time, like collaborative, everybody in the office together doing versus heads down time? How do you? Like,
that's a good question. I mean, we do hybrid. So like we're in the office 3 days a week. But we actually do have a remote employee now. We have a team member who lives in Dallas.
Sweet.
Yeah, which was like sort of accidental, but I guess we have a Dallas office now.
Yeah, nice.
I didn't say that.
Oh yeah, we'll do a podcast out there.
It wasn't strategic, but except for the fact that hiring Alex was like an amazing decision. He's an incredible designer and such a great fit for our team. Where am I going with this question? How do we make space for sort of collaboration and also like doing the heads down work? I think having the option to like work at home sometimes is really helpful for folks. I'm a weirdo and I'm tired of working at home. I don't ever want to work at home. So I'm always in the office, but you know, there's only 7 of us. We share a small office with another team, the Spark Mill. They've got about 10 people. So our space is pretty small. And there's usually enough space to be heads down if you want, but we're also like chit-chatting, and we use Slack a lot. I don't know, that like took the silly conversations out of our emails and made it so that like if you want to like goof around, you can, but if you want to be heads down, like you just walk in the other room.
Well, the Christie Thompson, heir of the Thompson legacy. I did not know that.
And my dad always stoked.
Yeah, that's really cool information. Designers of the Hopewell Police Station. Thank you for hanging out with us. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, totally.
I would totally be able to riff a lot longer, but we all got to actually do work. This is
I know, it'll make
space.
your editing too hard.
Yeah, I know, right? It gets to be a real long time.
You got to delegate that.
Yeah, one day when I let go.
Hey, I just wanted to say to the BizSense guys, I do really love you guys, and it's okay if you don't ever rebrand. You're doing great work.
We love your brand. It's beautiful brand, but we also know how good Campfire is. So.